social means everybody, okay? And in modern times, everybody counts. So there's, I mean, it's not always what happens in real life, but in the ideals of modernity, this ideology has to, you know, extenderse. How do you say that?
Expand?
Expand.
Spread.
Thank you. Spread to all the members of society. That is what we would call the modern justice theory. Being modern is also living in cities. Being urbanized, can I say that?
Sure, it sounds good.
Being urbanized. The concept of the city as we know it, it's modern. Yeah, but I mean, Athens was in a city, or Rome was in a city, or not in the modern sense. As we know cities today, where all things come to the city, and the city is the nerve. You know, it's the central nerve of the society. Before that happened, that didn't happen. There were more people all the time living in the countryside than living in cities. Cities like a little, you know, central thing that was important, but it wasn't the central stuff. In modern society, citizen, no? Ciudadano, the citizen is the member of the city. And the member of the city is who has all the rights and all the obligations of a modern man. Next, what does it mean to be modern? Well, it means that individuals don't count, or don't count as much as masses. We are living in a society of masses. Everything has to be, the unique doesn't have consistence, you know. If it has consistence, is that because you're in a group.
You're talking about individuality?
The individuality is when there's another, I mean, how can I explain this? When I'm by myself, I don't count. If I think on myself and there are others that think in the same sense, then I count.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay? What does it mean to be modern? Having a race, a culture, a nation. The notion of nation is a modern term. A country with the same language, with an identity. What does it mean to be modern? The value of markets. So here are main ideas, not all, but I think there are main ideas of what makes us all modern. And I am sure that right now most of you, while I was talking, was maybe not totally agreeing with what I'm saying. Maybe if I would said this 40 or 50 years ago, it would be much more easy for me to convince you that this is what we think about modernity. Today, we are living a decline on modernity. So today, we have, you know, a different perspective. And maybe a lot of you are thinking right now like, okay, being modern in some sense is this, but also it can be the contrary. You know, like Clark just mentioned, asked me right now. I mean, in one hand, we say that modernity, you know, is masses and justice, but also we are saying that it's liberty and it's the individual status who counts. Well, these kinds of discussions are much more recent than we think. If we read the classic modern philosophers, Kant, Hegel, all these bunch of guys, we won't see these discussions. We will see, very modern thought in the way I am explaining it right now. So when did all this modern stuff begin? Let me give you some. Constantly, I hear from my students, they ask me, when does the modern times begin? And I always answer, depending on what we're talking about. If we're talking about economy, if we're talking about philosophy, if we're talking about science, modernity doesn't have one beginning, like one precise date. We have to be in some kind of field, and in that field, try to figure out which is the beginning. For example, if we're talking about science, we would have to say that the beginning of modern thought and modern values has to be the Copernicus revolution, putting the sun in the middle instead of the earth, and all the different way of thinking, because of that very important discovery in Western civilization, came to develop the modern values. If we think about philosophy, not science, then we would have to say Descartes. René Descartes, the French philosopher, started the philosophical modern approach to the problems of knowledge, of God, of society. If we are thinking about art, we would have to say that, and here it's a little bit ambiguous, because we could say that if we go to the literature, we'll see that modern art, what is called in the history of art, modern art, is 19th and 20th century. But the modern thinking in art is much before. We can call the Renaissance, like the first modern art, even though right now modern art means more 19th and 20th century.
Is that why you use Picasso here?
I use Picasso because he would be modern art. We would never say that Michelangelo is a modern artist. He's from the Renaissance. But when we see the values of the Renaissance, we can find very clearly that they are modern artists, even though today we say that modern artists are only in 19th and 20th century. Okay? If we're talking about society and society values, we have to say that French Revolution is the start of modern thought. And by society, I mean a lot of stuff. I mean politics, I mean the way of organizing the society values. And I think that la ilustración, how do you call it? The enlightenment, it shows, its reality with the French Revolution. If we talk about religion, we have to mention the Lutheran reforms that changed the religion, that made the religion more modern. If that is possible, I'm not sure. Said nothing. In economy, lastly, in economy we have to think in the Industrial Revolution. So, if you're good at dates, you can see that right now I'm mentioning moments in human history that are in a large range, talking since ending of 15th century to last 19th century. And yes, that maybe that's why it's so confusing, because modernity, what it does is evolve in different things, in different stages, in different fields, and when we get to the 20th century, then we can see that our life are being modern in all senses. But this is until 20th century.